Good afternoon. Well, I'm just giving a couple minutes. I was grabbing a water. See how many people are going to join today, or they're going to watch the Zoom recording. So, regardless, I like to do it anyways. Gets me ready for Money Monday. So, everybody should be doing this. Yeah, I wasn't here Friday. Couldn't really see out of my eye, so yeah, couldn't really trade because of that little quick procedure I had to have on Thursday, but all is good. It's only half blurry, so trading Monday should be really fun. But I think Mike will tell me. He'll tell me if it's a good trade or not. Just enter off that.
Money Monday.
Yeah, let's do it. So, I'm Rudy on Zoom. Oh, Rudolph. That's Allie. Okay. Yeah, I got a couple questions on DM, and I know Allie had a question about a couple tickers on Friday. Like I said, I haven't even checked them out, so we will review those together, and you'll get my first view and look at them as well. So first, I guess let's just kind of see. Let me go back. What did we start with on Money Monday, which was the 30th, right? So let me see. What was on our watch list the 30th?
LMDX.
Where is it at? So I said Monday, good morning, welcome back. This morning we're seeing a lot of active press releases, but still not one clear gainer. Be careful with a lot of options today and try to stay focused on your setups and favorites. I said the watch list is, I gave a handful out there. And then I also said, hey, if you don't like today's trading activity, go watch the Sunday review session. So from what I remember, it was very choppy Monday. I think the week before it was pretty good. And I also kind of got that feeling this week. Well, I shouldn't say feeling, but I seen some people in trading chat and everything like that saying like, hey, I'm not doing good in this market. I'm not seeing things, it's just not working out. And that's fine. Just, that you're actually, understanding that things are not to your favor means you're already ahead of the game. Now you just have to do what you're saying, right? So if you're saying, hey, I'm not doing good in this market, that means what? Stop trading. You don't have to trade. So many people just, I say it every week, feel like you have to make a trade every day, and you don't. You need to focus on your consistency. And to get consistent, you have to focus on quality over quantity. And yes, as you experience, the markets and become a better day trader, you will have more patterns and plays that allow you to apply them into every different market condition. So then you can eventually trade what? Every day. You'll have something that you're good at that, hey, I can trade on this chart right now because I like this style play, or you recognize that. But as a new trader, or you're still trying to find your footing, you're probably not there. And that means if you're just trying to, throw crap at the wall and see what sticks, that means it's not going to be consistent, and you're probably not going to do very good. And you're going to see your P&L just be like what? Like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, while you're trying to find that consistency because you're still in discovery. You're still testing. 90% of the traders, that's where they're at, and that's where they live at for a very long time. So just don't rag on yourself too much if you're not seeing things in your favor. Stay disciplined, don't touch it, and then wait for your setup. But anyways, Monday we said the watch list was, the first one I put was VYNE, MGTX, ICU, RVPH, CDT, CHRS. Does anybody have one of those that they want me to go over the other one, or do you just want me to check VYNE? I'm not sure what the big one was on Monday. I can't even remember. Let me go on VYNE to the 30th. That puts us out here at 705. So here we are. VYNE, what can we tell right away off the gate? It looks like it was a news pop. It had some type of news, followed by what? A quick rip up, and then the stock pulled back, and it pulled back quite a bit. Usually what I like to see in pre-market is the stock to pop, bring it up on our radar, pull back a little bit, hold some type of area of support, and then make the next leg up. So this one actually came all the way back down. And I don't even think I was looking at this at the time when it made its recovery back up, because majority of the time, if the stock pulls all the way back down to here like it did, it means it's not going to come back. You usually just don't see them reverse on up. So this was kind of the first one that says, hey, guess what? I can do this. So if I die all the way back down, you might not want to forget about me. And just yet. So VYNE had a pretty good reversal and then followed by a VWAP roll. I had a VWAP roll question, so maybe I just check in on talk about that real quick. Mike, I know you don't know 100% what a VWAP roll is, so
I actually do, man. I know what a VWAP roll is because we traded a lot of VWAP stuff in my own group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, what I consider kind of my quick breakdown of my rules and what I like to see on a VWAP roll is, one, the stock has to start from below and it has to come up from below. So some traders, which they might call their VWAP roll something different, but if the stock is currently above VWAP and it just pulls all the way back down to VWAP is this red line on my chart, by the way, pulls all the way back down and it kind of dips off that is not a VWAP roll, right? That's just a dip buy, and now they're hoping that stock goes back up. What I consider a VWAP roll is the stock goes up, it cracks back below VWAP, and then it comes back up through. Sort of like what this one did, right? The stock was trading below. Now we come up through VWAP. The reason I don't like to put buy on the initial push through VWAP is because this is a very high area for shorts to come in, right? You don't know at this specific area. Obviously, right here, looking at the stationary chart, and it already happened, you could have been like, oh, if I bought here, it would have worked out. But majority of the time, there's going to be a huge struggle. And also, when there's a huge struggle, you got to think of it as like running a race. If you're sprinting, by the time you get to this line from down here, you're probably out of breath. So what needs to happen? You need to you're exhausted. You need to kind of, slow down a little bit before you get the next leg up. And that's what we like to see. So the problem is, if the bulls run out of stream trying to buy this and keep it up through the push through VWAP, the shorts can easily just take this back down. I love shorting into VWAP rejection or the failed of the VWAP roll, just because that tells me that the bulls are not very strong. And there's probably a high probability that the stock's not going to go any higher and it's going to come back down. So that's why I like to use VWAP, because it's also a very low risk play. If I'm playing off the VWAP roll, that means my risk is pretty much going to be the candles that dip off VWAP. And if they start to crack any further below, I'm simply getting out. Why would I leave the trade on the table and trade this anymore if I'm in over here and all of a sudden the stock starts cracking even more and it comes way down here? I'm not trying to turn a VWAP roll into this green line is the 200 EMA, or maybe I see that it held some area of support down here. I'm not trying to hold dip buy and add in because this VWAP roll failed, right? So what I like to see is the stock pop up from below, pops up through, and this 10 EMA, this blue line, I like to see this trending up. The stock has to be above the 10 EMA, and then I like it to come down and hold off from VWAP. When it gets down and holds off VWAP, I'm looking for some type of reversal candle. My favorite reversal candle is a doji. You may ask, well, what is a doji? It's pretty much a candle that has a body, the big part in the middle, and a matching upper wick and a lower wick. This would be a doji. This kind of looks like a doji. This looks like a doji right here. I like to see them form where I'm looking for it to reverse off from. And then when I get the doji, I want to see, because a doji is an indecision candle, I like to see it reverse on up. So I know if we pop up through, we come back down, we start to form a reversal candle here, which it didn't. In this specific case, it didn't. But if it does and it starts to print green, that means that's my confirmation candle. It gives me a high probability that this stock is going to hold that support and we're going to move on up. Now, if I do get in here, where's my risk? My risk is going to be right here, right? If these two lows drop out and I get in here at 295, that means the crack of these two wicks down here is 286. So pretty much 10 cents below. I'm risking 10 cents on this specific trade. So like I said, that's where I would be cutting it. This actually had a double bottom here. See it? One bottom, two bottom, they lined up, and then it reversed. A double bottom is also a reversal type of candle, like candle pattern. You reverse on up and it goes, right? So that's kind of what I like to see on a VWAP rolls. I know there was somebody asking for it, for me to explain it a little bit. In order for it to be a successful VWAP roll, one other rule is it has to break the high of whatever it did, right? So in this case, it popped up, kind of made a high up here in this 328, came back down, held the dip, and then what did we do? We actually broke it. If we failed to break this high here and say it rejected here and then all of a sudden just plummeted back down, that would be a failed VWAP roll. And if you were in here, where are you selling? Your max risk is always going to be at the lows of those bottoms, but now VWAP's up here. I would have probably been stopping myself out once it cracked here at pretty much $3. And if I was in at 295, 296, I did what? I still made 5 cents, but I'm out. I'm safe. I'm not having to worry about, something else happening or putting myself at risk for something else. But in this case, we did what? We did break these highs and the stock continued going up. I had this goldish brown line here, which indicates the 50 MA on the daily on my chart. And where does the stock come up to? It kind of stopped here before. That's where it rejected. So if you got in off the VWAP roll and you break through this area, my sell target would have been that line right here. So I would have been limit selling some, or market, well, you can't market sell them pre-market, but I would have been limit selling some of my stock right here into the push, into the 50 MA. Would I sell all of it? No. Why would I not sell all of it? Because who knows? I don't know if this thing's going to come up and test the high a day towards $3.99, $4, or maybe it comes up to this green line, which is a 200 on my chart, or this red line, which usually signifies 100%, right? So there's still larger targets on this stock that I want to go for. So I sell partial into there, and now we are pretty much what? Riding the 10 EMA. This is still on trend. This is still a trend line. It's still nice. Do I need to add in a line here? I don't need to. I can just use the 10 EMA to see that, which is the blue line. But we come up and we hit resistance. We pull back. A pretty standard mini bull flag sets up off the 10 EMA, and look at what happens. You get the doji, which I love as a reversal candle. You get the reversal, and now you're right back up to this upper resistance area, and you're trying to break it, which it does. So we break that area. This line wouldn't have been there yet. And I technically would have been, honestly, hoping that the stock came back up to this area, right? This would have been my next sell target if I was still riding some from this VWAP roll. I would have sold some, and then I would have been looking to sell some more there. But what happened? Did it ever get up to $4? Did it get it even up to my 422, which was my chart resistance? It didn't. So I'm still looking for this. I'm still going to be riding some of my shares until it either gets to those sell targets or it cracks, right? If this is the area of resistance, this 50 MA, I do not want to hold the stock below the 50 MA anymore, right? It needs to hold resistance, needs to hold as new support. So what happens? The stock comes up. We're trying to hold above this resistance here. And then what happens? We crack. And at the same time, I'll just circle it right here. We crack this brown line. We also are cracking the 10 EMA, which is my trend line, was acting as my trend line. If I draw a trend line from here to here, it's probably going to show kind of the same area, right? Look at, we cracking it all right here at the same spot. So this is where I would have been selling out the remaining of my shares. Sure, you could say, well, Alan, you should have just sold all your shares there, because guess what? Where it cracked at, you got out the remaining shares at the same price. Yes, in this specific scenario, it did. I kind of held on for no rhyme or reason, but I gave it a chance, because I promise you, if you sell all into the first resistance area, especially a stock that's not up 100% or a couple 100%, the stock's going to keep going. It still looks very bullish in this area. There's no reason to sell, and you have to let some meat ride on the winner, right? You got to let some go. But then it fails. I'm out. All my shares there. I'm not holding it down here to break even. This is a bear sign. I'm out. And now I'm just waiting for my next little target. My next target would have been probably the breakthrough there, which I did have a line at 356. What happens? The stock cracks the 10 EMA. We try to come back up through the 50. We fail to do that. We fail to break that resistance. Stock comes down. And then what happens again? Now we're below VWAP. I don't care about the stock at all until we come back up through VWAP, and I'm looking to reapply this VWAP roll strategy now over here to the right. And it pretty much kind of does it, right? Comes up through VWAP, hits resistance, pulls back down to VWAP. Now we're trying to roll off, and we kind of make a lower high, and we technically have another VWAP roll over here. Is it as strong as this one? No, it's not. Because why? Because where it broke and rolled off VWAP from here to here, look at how big that is versus where we broke VWAP and rolled to here. That circle is a lot bigger than that circle. That means there's more range in this stock. That means there's more profits, than here to here. Sure, it could have broke and kept going and we got the next leg up, but it just didn't, because you still have to sell into resistance. If you got in off this VWAP roll here at 326, you better be prepared and being like, okay, I have to sell some. I have to lock some up at 344, no matter what. And then you're letting some shares ride. And then I would have been like, you know what? We stopped here. We rejected there. So if it comes up through this 50 again, I have to sell some shares here at 356, which it doesn't happen. What? It kind of sits here, holds out. And then what happens? We crack the 10 EMA. We failed to break through resistance. And if I draw a trend line, kind of look at that, the same area, it cracks the trend line as well. At the same time, it does a 10 EMA. And this is where I would have been stopping out the remaining of my shares from my sell into that off this VWAP roll. So once again, it didn't work out, but I still walked away with some profits. Not a lot, but I did. And then the stock comes down, holds above. I would not have been looking to replay this stock until we got back above this resistance, one of these two resistance lines. But what happens? One, we're getting close to market open. I don't like to take a new position after 9 o'clock unless it's a news pop play, a new news pop play, or I'm still holding something from before. But if it's come 9:15, 9:20, I'm not going to enter in a stock until after 9:35, right? So just to let you know about that. So I'm not looking to enter in over here. And then the stock opens. And what happens? We hold. I like this. We're past the first 3 to 5 minutes of market open. We hold. We push back up through VWAP. We had a chance of a VWAP roll here. We came up. We hit resistance. We should all know, okay, we break this area of resistance. There's probably a good chance of the stock going. But we hit resistance. We come back down for the VWAP roll. I'm looking to get in over here. But what happens? It doesn't even reverse. We don't get a green candle. The stock just goes down. So I take my finger off the trigger and I'm not even trading this. At this point, maybe you flip short or something because it rejected resistance. It cracked back below. And now I'm just short from here. And I'm going to hold short, looking to cover on the way down unless it ever comes back up to VWAP. So if you are shorting and you're using that as risk, your risk is pretty much nothing, because if it comes up through VWAP, you cover your short and you flip to the long side. So you can do a lot of work at these VWAP levels. And that's why I use it every day in my trading. So then the stock didn't do anything, right? Just stayed down. And I think it pretty much just kind of sat sideways all day. Never gave us another trading opportunity. So any questions on that stock? Did I explain that one well? I can't remember if I don't know if I traded this one or not. Honestly, I forget half the stuff I trade by the next day. So, let me know if there's any questions on that one. What did we have else on Monday? We had MGTX. Let me bring this one up here real quick. All right, MGTX on the 30th. Yep, I got the right day. And looks like pretty much same thing, right? 7:30, news came out. As soon as name came out, the stock instantly ran, popped up, hit a high of this 580, right? And then it pulled back. This looked a little bit better than VYNE because look at where the pullback is. The pullback kind of held up here. We actually kind of formed a bull flag here versus when we looked at VYNE, the pullback came like almost all the way back down to the previous close line before reversing on up, right? I don't like that big of a drop, especially after a news pop. I like them to pop, hold, like form a bull flag, and then go. So MGTX very well could have been an active like try here. It kind of looks, volume looks a little bit low, definitely. So it probably was harder to trade than what the chart shows, but it had a failed flag, right? Popped up, made the pull, put a doji in, tried to do a reversal. This would have been a great entry here off this pattern. And next we would have been looking for the break of like, I have this 531 line, which is chart history. I would have been waiting for the break of this 531. And then I would have been targeting what? This green line up here at 621. We failed to even come up and retest this 580, and we definitely didn't touch that. Volume really didn't come in. So now, after the pullback and the pop, if we do not make a new high, what is it going to do? This is the high. This is a lower high. Now this is what? Point A is over here. Point B is right here. So what does that form? That forms a downtrend. So now you're in a downtrend and you're just waiting for a downtrend reversal if you're still interested in MGTX. Fortunately, I don't think it happened at all. And the stock just stayed down until we came over here. So let's look at what happened after market open, right? So stock came all the way back down, was probably off from most people's radars. And then what? It held off the 200 EMA or this 418 chart history support we had. We came up, we tested VWAP. Once again, I don't buy into VWAP because very well it could have rejected and just came all the way back down. But we did end up breaking here. This style VWAP roll here is not, I 9 times out of 10, I probably wouldn't have gotten this one because it's up too high, right? Let me make sure it didn't halt. 10:05, 10:06, 10:04, 3, 2. Okay, so it didn't halt or anything. It just instantly popped up. It didn't pull all the way back down to VWAP. And at this time, the 10 EMA was already too high. And what I mean by that, the blue line and my red line, not this other blue line. A lot of times if I see the stock pops up through VWAP and this blue line is already crossed and too high, let me see if I can zoom in to make this look a little bit better. There we go. See how there's now a gap between my 10 EMA and my red line? Well, if the stock cracks the 10 EMA, it's technically what? I use the 10 EMA as like my trend line. That means it's cracked my trend. And now it's a little bit bearish based off the 10 EMA, even though we're still above VWAP. So I don't like to play a VWAP roll when the trend line just cracked, right? So that's not a very bullish thing. That's more of like a gamble, right? Because you're 50% sure that can still go up because yes, it still has VWAP, but it cracked the trend. So usually, you know, on that last stock we reviewed where the 10 EMA was actually lining up with the VWAP, now that means you have what? A trend line and VWAP all pointing and holding the stock up as support, and there's probably a higher probability that stock's going to go up. So once again, 9 times out of 10, if the stock pops up through VWAP and the 10 EMA is too high, when I want it to pull back down to VWAP, I will not take that style VWAP roll. That is not a high probability setup. In this case, it happened to work, right? It did go. You are going to get those outliners, right? So it popped up and it did what? Just rode 10 EMA, rode the 10 EMA, rode the 10 EMA, rode the 10 EMA until what? Kind of some sideways consolidation. If I draw a hard trend line, it would look probably something like, maybe I'd make it all from here. Probably something like this. And what's not good to see when you're on a trend line is sideways consolidation through a trend line, right? Because there's a lot of trend line players. So a lot of times when the stock cracks a trend line, this is considered a crack of a trend line, even though it didn't like plummet back down. It just traded sideways. Sideways consolidation through a trend line is usually a more bearish thing than bullish. So there was probably a couple people being like, I don't know, let me sell some. Let me, a lot of indecision before what eventually happens. The 10 EMA, it cracks below that and the stock starts to pull back, right? So honestly, if you're in the stock at any point, really, I would be exiting if you're a trendline player, probably there and definitely here. This would have been my next exit. So if you got in anywhere on this stock, and you were selling some into the resistance areas and selling some in the resistance areas, I would have been dumping out all my remaining shares at these two circles. you will find if you're scaling out of your position, you may catch the top on a partial sell, but there's a very low, usually a low probability that you will sell, that your final sells are actually at the highs. Most of the time you'll see what'll happen is I'll get into a stock here and then I'm out some, and then maybe it comes up, retests the highs, I'm out some more, and then all of a sudden it comes down, it starts to crack some, and I see my final sells like being a little bit lower, right? So kind of, this is how usually my charts will look. Just, I don't know, just sharing it with you. So anyways, the stock does what? Cracks VWAP, comes back up, tries to retest. What does it happens? Once again, the 10 EMA is so high, we crack the 10 EMA, and at the same time we crack VWAP, and the stock fails to do a VWAP roll, and the stock pretty much just goes down. So MGTX attempted, but just didn't work, had no power. Once we couldn't hold above VWAP, we couldn't even test the highs, we couldn't even make our way up to these resistance levels of 200 EMA, and or you had nice targets up here the weekly as well. So good targets up MGTX, just no strength. Where were traders on Monday? Who knows? Then we have ICU. I don't know if that did anything. We'll move on to the next day here. I don't want to spend all the whole review session on Monday. We just look. So ICU, which was a previous kind of a previous runner, right? Looks like it popped up. I think it had some type of news, and this thing just popped up, ran all the way up. I have tons of lines on this one right now because I played it quite a bit. Finally hit an area of resistance, pulled back, came back up, failed to break through resistance, and then it was what? Came back up, lower high, dropped down, came back up, lower high, came down, came back up, lower high. So then what? This was in a downtrend. Never reclaimed VWAP, so never was on my trade list after market open. Let's move to Tuesday, unless anybody has any questions on Monday or any other stock, even if it wasn't on the watch list. No? Okay. SPRC, what did I say Tuesday morning? Good morning. A bit of a slow start as most traders are still searching for that play, if ever, right? So that means we really didn't have a pre-market play. As I keep in mind, we have the Fed meeting tomorrow, so markets might be on hold until that gets past us. So usually, traditionally, if we have like a rate hike or a Fed meeting or, something going on with that stuff, usually the markets will tend to be a little bit cooler. Why? Because these crappy stocks that we're playing, they don't want to compete with news. They want to be the news and increase their share price so they can offer, and so they can pay their bills, and they can line their pockets, and they can buy their next house on that fancy island in New York, and they can do whatever, right? Like, that's just what they do. It's pretty common sense. So that's why things traditionally through earnings season that we are in currently, and if there's any Fed announcement coming out, usually these small caps are going to be lighter, right? They just are. So anyways, Tuesday, what happens? Looks like this was at 744. I'm trying to remember this. What I think actually happened is it had a news release at a random time, and then it kind of held, nobody was really interested, and then it actually started going here around this 812. So it was a delayed reaction pop. I think a couple I shouldn't say guys, but a couple people in the chat did get it. I can't remember if I got this. Was this the one that I got or the one I missed? I'd have to go look back. But anyways, it was very quick. It was a very easy play. Honestly, if you were paying attention to it, the break that I would have been looking to take would have been right there at 391. So you have the pop, the pullback. And then if you didn't, it probably was extremely light on volume here, but this would have been the ideal entry, 391. And then you would have been targeting this 50 MA there, and then 100%. And then this was 200%. So it almost ran 200%. So pretty crazy, quick little move there. It also offered a additional trading opportunity if you missed all this. And that area was right here, right? Stock came up, put in an area of resistance. The stock pulled back, put a little mini bull flag here. Look at, here's your doji, here's your reversal candles, or here's another reversal candle. And then we popped this resistance of 778, and we actually popped up here to 865-ish area, a couple minutes, and then we fell back down. So, 778 to, 867, that's a dollar move. That's pretty good. Did I even put out I don't think that was 1017. So that's why I remember it. I got SPRC I think it was last week. I remember trading that. So hard to get down here, and you had to be aggressive here, and it was a little bit more riskier. Why? Because you're already up 100%. But I think this was really the only other stock that we had, because we just went over, what I said from the morning, and it doesn't look like we had too many other plays. But the stock failed to go any higher. We then came back down, tried to hold above VWAP. Now you have a lower high. So now what? You have high, you have a lower high. Now you have a trend line. Stock's in a downtrend. It comes back down below VWAP. At the same time, it's trying to break through this downtrend here. It fails to do that, and the stock stays below VWAP, and nothing comes about it for the rest of the day. Just completely dead. So no go on SPR. VSME. And this was going to be the 31st, right? So this was one that looks like we had something going on in after hours. So as the 30th, you can see here in after hours, the stock popped up, came back down. And so this was a previous day runner, right, from the day before. So you probably woke up, I remember seeing VSME on the gainers list, and it was brought to my attention. So I was looking for it, especially at 7 o'clock, right? But what happened? 7 o'clock, the stock actually was running up before 7. So this is one where if you were kind of earlier, you could have got a VWAP roll. Here's a really perfect VWAP roll right here. But it was kind of, you said, before 7. I haven't been, trading before 7 yet, but or too often have I lately. But if you're at your computer earlier, you could have got in this, popped up VWAP, held VWAP, got the reversal here at 6:49. 7 a.m. came. People that knew it from the day before just simply hopped on it because there was probably nothing else on their gainers list. The stock went on a little quick 7 a.m. pop, and sure enough, stock ran up, and that was kind of the high that it put in at $1.12 for whatever reason. The actual resistance was here at 108. Once we hit that resistance, stock put in a reversal candle, a doji, followed by a flat bottom red or flat top red confirmation candle, and the stock pulls all the way back down to this area of support before doing what? Coming back up through VWAP, trying to hold on, and doing another VWAP roll here. So another great example of VWAP roll. In this specific case, it was also pretty much the same area that it did what? Broke through this downtrend line. You got the top, draw your line. Look at where the stock reversed off VWAP and through this downtrend line, all right there from pretty much 98 cents, quick pop up to $1.10. And then it came back down. It could not break this $1.08 for whatever reason. This was the upper trend line that I had, and then this 116. So it was a cheapie, but it just couldn't hold on. Stock fell back below VWAP, and then I think that was it on VSME. So once again, Tuesday was pretty light. Fed meeting was coming in. I don't think that many people got a trade Tuesday morning. RVPH, I don't even think we're going to review this one, but let me just make sure that it didn't do anything. 10:30. No, it was just one that was up at 10:30 on the later in the day. Looks like at 12 o'clock area, and it kind of held its gains overnight. And people were looking to see if this was going to, make another move Tuesday morning, which it did absolutely nothing. So I was just watching it because it was still consolidating. So let's move on to Wednesday. So what did I say? Good morning. Slow start as expected, right? We just went over this because of the Fed meeting. Be careful sticking around into that time, as we can see some volatility in the market. So usually the Fed meeting, starts at 2 o'clock. Then I think Powell comes on at 2:30. So 2 o'clock with the announcement and 2:30 with his little spiel about it. is going to create some volatility. Most traders know that things are going to be volatile in the blue chip, the large cap stuff. So that's where they go. They know you're going to be able to get a quick reaction, pop or dip, with Apple, with Tesla, with Amazon, with all that stuff. So if you can quickly go trade that stuff and get a nice move, why is nobody's going to be sitting over here on this small cap stuff? So, and especially later in the day, if you can get a quick morning pop, news pop off from something, that's fine. But when you get closer to 2 o'clock, you're probably not going to see much activity on these cheapies. So guess what? Another Fed meeting will happen. What, next month or the month after? I don't know the exact date, but now you know what to expect on Fed meeting day. CLLS was one I put on the watch list. So now we're looking at 11-1. All right. Looks like we actually had some pretty good activity on this one out of the gate. So let me zoom in this area. 4 o'clock, CLLS had a pop. I don't know if that was news at 4. Let's get to 7 o'clock. So this means it was already on the gainers list, ready to go for us early risers at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. It just wanted to continue on up. I think I originally drew a trend line, something like this that I was targeting, but it didn't yet quite get there. 7 o'clock, you just have that quick initial spike from traders coming in, and then we put in this resistance area, and the stock did not ever break through it. Then at market open, you actually had a dump. This is why I don't play the first 3 to 5 minutes, because I don't want to be at mercy of that stuff. So stock comes back down, and then what happens? We finally break through VWAP. In this case, this was a quick surge up. Did not even give me an option for a VWAP roll. I don't even think I was around for 12 o'clock on this anyways. But in this case, I would not have gotten into any of the stock down here. I probably would have been, my area of interest, if it failed to do a VWAP roll, would have been right here at $2.75. So I probably would have been interested right here, or this flag. Oops, that looks bad. Let me fix this. Or this little bull flag that it's set up off for me right here, right? And if this line is still 100%, look at, that's where it came up to again. So I would have been looking to play 275 into this 291. But I say that's where I would look to trade just based off the pattern. But would I have actually traded that? Probably not. And why is because look at how much meat is left on the bone compared to where we already came, right? If I don't get my lower patterns that I like, and the stock's way up here and I'm into an area of heavy resistance, and I know, okay, if I get in here and I'm looking to target here, but I missed all this kind of area, once again, look at how much better potential was here versus here. This just means, hey, I'm not going to trade it. For me, it's just not worth the risk to make a quick little, scalp. I'm looking for, a stock that has more meat on the bone, right? So to me, I probably wouldn't have taken this break, especially on a day that's a Fed day and is usually weaker. And in this specific scenario is what time? We're at 12 o'clock. One, I can't tell you last time I traded past 12 o'clock. And two, I'm not going to trade 2 hours before the Fed meeting, because anything can happen. Anything can come out. Who knows? Maybe some announcement comes earlier, something is leaked, and you're really putting yourself at mercy of some wild west stuff. And I'm not going to do that. So MNPR. There we are, 11-1. This is, 11-1, 7 o'clock. So it looks like we had some type of news pops all the way back up. I really would have preferred this to hold, and I would have been looking to play reversal out of here and for what? The stock to go up, hit this 100% mark. What happens? It fails to hold. It doesn't even, set up into my pattern, and the stock cracks VWAP, just goes back down, and you're just pretty much hanging out until what? You reverse back up through VWAP. Well, for me, come up, we reject. Now we're back up through. So I am interested here, but it doesn't even do a VWAP roll, and it just kind of goes up and goes off without me. Another thing that I don't like about this is the pricing. I'm not a big fan of stocks below $1. I rarely ever trade them. And right now we're starting to get stuff that's higher price than $1. So that's a good signal. So I'm not going to sit here and play this cheap stuff. It didn't even set up in my pattern. I would have been waiting for what? If I did not get a VWAP roll, my resistance break would have been this 71 cents, which came up, rejected, came back down. So I would have been, if I was a buyer, looking to buy it here and looking for a target here. That's 71 cents to 86 cents. So kind of a pretty big move on a cheap stock, right? And what was in my VWAP roll would have been here to here. So see how this circle is bigger than that circle? That means there's a lot more, there's more meat left on the bone. That means I can take it, right? Just doing a quick visual representation of what I'm seeing here. But I didn't trade MMPR. Too cheap for my blood. Any others on the first that you want me to go over? No. Okay. What time is it? Let's see. 7:43. I want to get to Friday. I know I want to get to Friday. Thursday, woke up. What did we get? Good morning. The Fed meeting is over. Yay.
Hey, Alan?
Yes.
Could you, from the first, sorry, I was on mute. Could you look at ALDX?
On the first, it was on our watch list. Yes, sir. ALDX. What specific about it? Or you just want me to go over it?
Yeah, just go over it if you would.
Okay. ALDX looks like I think this was on our, no, it wasn't there. So ALDX, I'm just going to zoom in this area. Looks like it had some random pop here at 740. I don't know if that's just happened to be when news came out at.
Yeah, it says enters into exclusive option agreement with Abby V for license to develop and commercialize Reproxalap.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was the one that was it Allie or somebody brought it up, but I remember there being a stock that was released at a weird time. So it had the news pop, right?
9:30.
Right out of the gate. 740, you mean?
I had entry at 9:30. Maybe that was, and I just drew out a play. I would have to let me look it up real quick and see what my, but anyway, just keep going.
Yeah, but so it popped up and then the stock came back down to try to, set up. It failed to set up, failed a downtrend. And I have this, I obviously was looking at because I have this line from back here and I quickly just put an upper trend line to this area that I was trying to see if it wanted to go for more. But anyways, stock gave a little bit more back than what I like to see. Like I said, I like them if they're going to pop off news to stay up and then make it another leg up. But hey, just like a couple of them earlier in the week, we're seeing them give back more, then reverse out of their depths and come back up. So then we come up through VWAP. So I'm looking for what? Either a VWAP roll on this reversal, or I'm looking for the break of this 221. Stock comes back up, kind of puts in a little bit of a VWAP roll. I promise you, well, I can't say I promise you yet, but is there a wick on the bottom of that one? Nope. So one of them printed red on there. So honestly, just comes up, put some highs. Would have been difficult to spot this, but if you did, good job. Pretty much $2. You got the pop, and then it ran right up to that 221. It failed to break 221, but it did what? Put in another little bull flag like right here. And then we broke the bull flag. So another entry, you could have got in here at 214 looking for it to push into 221 and break. If you did play this bull flag, you have to sell some into that resistance every time. So even if it's only a few pennies up, it's always wise to take some off. And now you're looking for the stock to do what? Make the break of that resistance. And I had a few of those trend lines drawn up. I wanted it to move up here to the 250s, 258, 275. 100% was up here at 342. And then I have some bigger targets all the way up here in $5 and $7. So there's some room for ALDX to run, which unfortunately it did what? It rejected, came back down, it actually put in a lower high here. So now you got the high, you got a lower high. What is that going to form? It's going to form a downtrend. Stock breaks through the downtrend, tries to reclaim VWAP, tries to hold, fails to roll, and go back down, right? So once again, failed, not interested in it. Market open happens. Now I'm going to wait first 3 to 5 minutes. it's still on the watch list. It's still right below VWAP. I'm interested in it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm in my go zone. I'm simply looking for a stock to reclaim VWAP. Comes up, it does reclaim VWAP. Unfortunately, the stock just goes and goes and goes, and it goes right to 221. I cannot, even though I said back here, this is the resistance that I'm looking to break, I cannot take a resistance break on a stock that just breaks through all these areas of resistance without some type of pullback. So don't get caught into that. If you see the stock from way below, just green candle, green candle, green candle, coming to resistance, just blows through that, there's a high probability it's going to do this, right? You're going to get caught in this like fake out, even though you have a couple candles above, it's not very strong. And then the stock pulls back down. And especially in this case, RSI is not maxed out, but that's fine. But if RSI is maxed out and you're definitely going to chase into that because you missed all this, you're really putting yourself at risk. So I would not have been taking this 221 break. What I would want to see now is it to reject somewhere, which it did, pull back a little bit, hold above the 10 EMA, form like a pretty much mini bull flag, like maybe right here. I don't like that it dipped down here. And now this area, I like the 221 break because now we're not exhausted. So this buy is way better than this buy because look at how much, if you just sprinted, guess what? If this is, say, this many green lines is a mile, you're probably out of breath by the time you get to the end of this mile versus, if this is only a couple hundred yards, that means you got a lot of breath before you reach a mile left, right? So don't buy exhausted breakout plays. Some people don't like breakouts, but that's probably because they buy the wrong kind of breakouts. You buy breakouts when they consolidated right below and they caught their breath and they can go. Don't buy them when they ran up from the lows without any type of pullback. Right? This is a pullback. We caught our breath. Now let's go. And what does it do? It goes that trend line that I had drawn, or I guess that trend line wouldn't have been there yet. But I added it after I had a new point. So we hit I was looking for this trend line still, right? So now if you're in from this 221, I've been looking for this 275. Unfortunately, we failed to hit 275. So that would have been my trading plan. Does that mean, okay, I'm in at 221. I'm putting now the stock's way up here at 258. My stop loss is still going to be down here at 221 to break even. No, it's moving up. I'm still going to respect this 10 EMA probably. And probably at the same time that this trend line cracks, which is probably going to be like this, you can probably start to see the 10 EMA crack. Right? In this case, the 10 EMA cracked right here before the trend line. So I would have been exiting probably this 251, 250, probably not 251, 250, crack of 250. So 248, 247, probably where I would have been out. I use more of the 10 EMA stuff than this trend line stuff. Sometimes the trend line will crack first, then the 10 EMA cracks, and sometimes the 10 EMA cracks and then the trend line cracks. So they kind of go hand in hand. But regardless, I wouldn't have gotten my target through 275. So 221 entry, I would have made like 24, 23 cents, 25 cents on this play. And, that would have been a failed attempt, but hey, you still walked away with some profits. Then what happens? The stock comes up. We put this resistance line here. And now if I'm still looking for 275, now this line is going to extend to the right. And I did have this line in. Now I'm taking this high, and I'm adding an additional line here. So let me extend that to the right. So now if I play this 258 break, I'm still looking for this area, and this trend line is going to continue to go up. So this means if I'm in here, I'm going to do a partial sell there, and I'm going to do a partial sell wherever this line lines up. And then obviously I'm still looking for, I have some higher targets up here, right? So whatever happens first. So if you get in at 258, fake out, you get the break. I'm still looking for some 275. It never happened. This trend line moves up. It never happens. So guess where I'm out at? 10 EMA cracks. I'm out right there from a 258, 259 entry with I made maybe 10 cents on it before it cracked, right? So I'm out. Stock comes down. It actually fails to hold support here. And if you're still interested, 258, you would have possibly got in here again, but volume is a lot less than over here. So I don't know that this would have that I would have played this anymore after this attempt, just because things don't look too bullish on ADOX over there. And no surprise, it doesn't do anything else for the rest of the day. So does that answer any of your questions, Mike, with that one?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. So the big one on that was don't buy exhausted breakouts. Wait for a pullback and then the rebreak. If you see the stock just ripping up from the depths.
Because you need it, otherwise you're just chasing and you have nowhere. There's no risk. I mean, you can't. There's nowhere to, unless you just make some arbitrary number up. I guess you don't have any. There's no place to put your risk.
Right, because if it's exhausted, that means that these EMAs they're lagging EMAs, and if the stock just rips up through these EMAs, especially to a upper like breakout resistance area, your support is stuck way down here where these EMAs are still trying to catch up, right?
Yeah.
Versus where if we run into resistance, pull back, now the EMAs probably have a chance to catch up. And also, if a stock runs into resistance and it pulls back, I'm going to base my stops, my max stop losses, where they pull back and they consolidate and try to hold and reverse off from. I don't care what trading rules or percentages or anything you should never be holding. If that area of mini consolidation or support falls out, you should not be holding. So now going to what you're saying, Mike, your risk is lower. Now you actually have a rule, something to base your loss off from versus buying something that's exhausted. Right. So, So that's why I don't, honestly, when I see a stock just rip up way up, I love to see that, because I'm like, oh, where's it going to hit? Because if it's going to show strength, now I'm going to get in on that pullback in the next leg up. So good one to review. Glad you brought it up. So Let's go to Thursday, and then we'll look at Friday here real quick. Fed meeting is over as the markets tend to rebound in a positive way. This morning, we did not see many PRs as we're still in the heat of ER season, right? We're still in the heat of the watch list will be a bit light, only having CLS and PPLA. So I don't even think I want to review this, but did anybody have anything that they want me to check out on Thursday? Looks like CLS, what was this? The second, or have anything that they did wrong that they want me to look at? But looks like CLS was something we played earlier in the week. Actually, it was on the watch list the Wednesday, so the Fed day. So it was just something that looks like that held its gains overnight, popped back up. This was 4 a.m. This was 4 a.m. So I wasn't even touching any of that. Where's 7 a.m.? Go to 7 a.m. And this was just up on the percent gainers list. So we were just watching it, but it doesn't look like it actually put in any trades. Look at what we did all pre-market. We kind of traded sideways, and then we cracked VWAP, and we never looked back. So the only way you could have gotten the best play on CLS is waking up at 4 a.m. the day after a Fed meeting, which I don't know about you. I'm not doing that. So let's check PBLA. And PBLA looks like 8 o'clock. Stock came out, possibly some type of news popped up, all the way up to a big whopping like $1.80, pulled back, started cracking even more. We made one VWAP reversal attempt, but what was met with heavy resistance, you have the 200 and the 50 on the daily and weekly here. Stock rejected, failed to hold VWAP. I would have loved to see it hit this rejection. Look at where the 10 EMA is in reference to VWAP, hold this area, and then do what? I would have loved for it to reverse, break that area of resistance. I would have been buying here. I would have been selling partial there. I would have been selling partial there, which is into the highs of this. And then I would have been looking for this. So that's would have been my trading plan if this did a VWAP roll, right? Partial, target. Didn't happen. So, hey, I didn't trade it. On to the next. Nothing else. Cracked below VWAP. Nothing ever happened. So, PBLA was crap. And I think Thursday was pretty bad. So then Friday. So let me go back to chat. What did Allie want to?
He wants to look at Howl, HOWL.
You can talk about two tickers from Friday. Howl, which I was a bottom feeder and fared well, but looked like it cut people up. And then we, after hours, which I got, looks like got in at $1 and rotated at 136. I'm not in the chair. Otherwise, I'd post stuff about this play sketch. So it doesn't even, I don't even think he's on a call. Maybe I'll watch it a little bit later. But let's look at Howl real quick. Like I said, I haven't even looked at Howl or WE. So let's see what happens. He wants to look at just Friday. So let's see. 7:00. Does anybody remember if there's any type of news on Howl? Did it come out with news or no?
Yes, it did. I'll give you the news. The news on Howl at 9. Let's see.
Did it have any at 7?
Sorry. The Howl news is, hang on, I'll just have to type it up real quick. HOWL.
I think last week I said I'm going to start using my scans on this sometime.
So
Definitely
Werewolf Therapeutics presents, this was at 7 a.m. Werewolf Therapeutics presents preliminary monotherapy data from phase 1b clinical trial establishing proof of mechanism for WTX-124 at the Society for Immunotherapy of Cancers.
Okay. So they presented something at a conference, right? Is that what I'm...
Positive data, it looks like.
Okay. So if you've been last week, if you're on some of the Zoom calls, you probably heard me say like, oh, conference. All these pharmaceutical stocks are invited to all these conferences, and they're going to be presenting a lot of data. It's a hit or miss. Usually conference data, like presentations, are not going to lead to any type of spikes unless, because most of the time what they're presenting at conference, they already have released to the public, and they're just trying to like get more investors and trying to, I don't know, get more eyes on them, right? Because they're trying to raise capital usually. Most of the time, they don't release like data that we don't yet have because they, these people know that they don't usually fare too well with market reaction because there's so many of these stocks releasing conferences, just like earnings, right? There's so many stocks releasing earnings. So it's hard to compete when there's too many cookies, in the cookie jar, right? So anyways, it does have some type of move. It looks like 7:00 that news came out. It had, actually pulled back. Then it came up through this 50 MA was the resistance area. So if you're interested in Howl, you would have been just looking to play the break of this resistance. RSI was coming up a little bit, so that's a little bit of concern, but you pop the resistance, you come back over here, you actually form a little bit of a mini bull flag. We make another leg up, and we're targeting the 200 on the daily. And then it comes back down. It's still holding this whole time, the 10 EMA. So you're still bullish, still looking. And if you played the break of the 50 EMA, I haven't marked this one up. I'm just using the EMAs, so I don't know where chart resistance is. I would have been targeting that, and I would have been targeting that. And that would have been my sell points from the break of here at 238, which it looks like Ali said he was a bottom feeder. So I don't know where he got in at, but if you play that resistance, you take some at 290, you take some off at 322, made a high at 344. My new upper resistance would have been this 334. And I would have been, just waiting for this to continue the trend up. Maybe we had next target up there would have been 100%. Maybe there's some chart history resistance in here. I don't know, but that would have been my next bigger target. I already locked in partial. But what do I see happening, right? We got a big extension here. You got the bodies off my blue line, the 10 EMA. RSI is through the roof. We're very extended. So you definitely don't want to be like, hey, I'm missing all this. I'm getting FOMO. And, right here, I wouldn't even been buying the break of this because RSI is already still too high. And now we're extended. And now you want to say, okay, I'm going to start buying this at 334 because I see, another dollar left on it. That's a big no-no. Like that's usually a high probability that you're going to buy the top and this thing's got to pull back. What it needs to do is do kind of what it did. You got the extension, wait for the pullback. You get the touch of the 10 EMA. Look at now you're getting this flag set up. You're trying to get the reversal. This is where the stock needs to go. And this is where it needs to go. And then make the next leg up. what happens? If you played it from here, which would have been a great entry, with meat left on the bone, you would have been stopping out if any of this failed, these lows and the 10 EMA kind of at the same time. So we come up, we failed to make a new high. What does that mean? A lower high after a high now has what? Point A to point B. So that is going to form what? Like a downtrend, pretty much like this. We cracked the 10 EMA. We cracked the lows of the bull flag it was trying to set up. You're out. So if you got in here, you might have taken a little bit of a loss if you were just playing, basing your risk off here. So say you're in at 321-ish area, 325. What is this? 312, 313. So pretty much what? 10-cent stop loss on this. You should have been out. You don't hold this all the way down here and be like, well, I'm going to try to manage off the 200 now. You can't do that. So you would have taken.
What about the pullback at 737, Alan?
Here,
yeah.
Let me make this a little bit better. Yeah, this is way better than here, right? You got, it's pretty much the same thing. We're just doing flags up. You got the pop. When it pops up, what happens here? RSI gets high. The bodies, if you see the candles to this blue line, look at how far away they are, right? Now this time, that's why I love bull flags and pullbacks, is it allows what? RSI to cool off. See how the RSI is dropping? Yep, catch its breath. We touch the 10 EMA, and then what happens?
Ooh.
Right up. So this would have been your entry here or here at 271. So this would have been playing. But if you play this, you got to sell here and you got to sell here, right? You got to sell some. So if you're in from, say, 265, you got out at 291, some out at 320, and then you held the rest, and your mental stop loss on all remaining shares would have been right here.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you would have got the rest out at 311. Sure, you missed the top at 344, but hey, promise you, if you would have sold everything here at the top, that stock would have kept going, and you would have been like, it always happens to me. So you gotta leave some left on the table here. But it forms a lower high, forms a downtrend, cracks VWAP, rejects. This downtrend stays true. The rest of the market open, did nothing on Friday, it looks like. So now we're just waiting. If it's on it would have been on the watch list. We're waiting for it to push back up through VWAP, or at least I am. We get a little VWAP push. It doesn't really set up into a roll. Once again, the 10 EMA is too high in reference to my VWAP. We reject the 200 EMA on the daily. It fails to ever break above it. And what happens? We crack the 10 EMA and we're right back down. Now we're trying to trade like below the 10 EMA and above the VWAP. We're kind of stuck in this consolidation. And what did I say? Consolidation is usually a sign of weakness, especially if it's through like a trend line. And then you crack. Then it tries to do it again. Like I said, this is all new data. It does come up. It pops. It rejects the same resistance area. It's not going to, at this point, now that we're so far up and you see the 10 EMA, you can't be like, well, I'm waiting for a VWAP roll. Because remember, if it's cracking that and coming back down VWAP, that's one, not a VWAP roll, and two, that's extremely bearish because we cracked the trend line. So my mindset goes, well, we're not getting a VWAP roll. I know there's heavy resistance here. I'm looking for a resistance break of 291. And to go back on what we looked at the last stock with that Mike brought up, was see how when we just blast up through and we're exhausted here, then we get the pullback. So I wouldn't have taken the break through here. Even if we did go, I would have just been like, you know what? It's going without me. And look at, where's RSI? It's way up here. I'm not going to take exhausted breakout play, but we get the pullback. It holds. RSI's cooled off. And now I get my reversal and I look to break. Sure, when we break, RSI does go back up, but we continue to go up, right? Now we're trending up. And what are we doing? 10 EMA, 10 EMA, 10 EMA, 10 EMA. I could draw a trend line. Where does it break? Where does it crack? Where does it reject? No surprise. So I'm out here, right? I took some profits and I sold the remaining shares there. Now what's happening? Okay, now we're holding above 200 EMA. This is my main resistance. It shoots right up. RSI is going to be up there. I'm not taking an exhausted breakout. But I like that it's consolidating, trying to break. So maybe I would have been interested in here. I don't like this much consolidation below a resistance point. This really needed to go in this area, right? You got the touch, the pullback, then the retest. But if it retests and fails, and then retests and fails, and retests, I don't like that much. You do hear me say like third touch breakouts and things I like that, but this is too close. What I mean by third touch breakout is like a stock comes up, hits resistance, pulls back for a while, like way down, comes back up, touches resistance, pulls way back for a while, and then comes back up. And usually we'll do like something like this. So that's quite a different pattern than popping just plus or minus a few pennies. I'm not going to sit in that. Some people even call it like barcode. It kind of looks like a barcode, doesn't it? So then that does that, and it looks like it had some even more up in after hours, which would have been crazy to be here sitting in front of your computer still that Friday at 4:00. So don't trade after hours on Friday. Oh, go enjoy
life. Is this something you
life.
want to look at on Monday for Monday on?
Good question. Yes, I would probably have it. Yeah, it held. I would probably continue
Could we
to watch
see a
it.
gap up tomorrow morning on this?
It's a fresh week, so anything could happen. It still has clear targets, right? This target is not going to be there anymore, but what do we have next? Let me look at this. This is the first time I'm looking at the 1 year chart. Let me quickly chart out some stuff. Let's see if it has any good targets. I don't think the news is big enough to wake up at 4 a.m. on this one, but the 52-week high is 457. And the weekly is there. Let me check the weekly here. No, you do have a 200 way up here at this 826 area. All right, where is that trend line? So if it were to open up at 4 and gap up, we drew that trend line on the daily, right? It comes here to like this 386. You also have like 2 other chart history lines here. So, I mean, you could get 50 cents out of it. If it breaks that, the next area, you got a couple areas chart resistance, but the real big one is going to be 450. Once you break 450, things can get pretty exciting because look at where your big targets go up here at 826. Obviously, 100% is going to be based off from where did it close? It closed somewhere around this area, 318. So 100% is going to be, if we do it off from 318, is going to be like, what, 332, 333? I don't know. I suck at math. So, or sorry, not 630 something. 630s. So 630s would put us pretty much here. And then we had another $3 of that, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 200% would be above the 200 on the weekly. So there is some big targets up there. I just don't know if the news is going to be is big enough for it to continue to go. What's the float on it? Anybody know the float?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. 18.39 million.
Any of it locked up, like big insider institutional ownership, or does yours not show it yet?
It doesn't show me that.
Okay, so just based off the float, it's kind of a big float. 18 mil. If it's like 1 to 3 mil, that would have been nice. Let's look at WE real quick. WE.
I would say there's 1, 10, 12, 14, maybe 16 million. So it's a really low float.
Oh, on WE or
on how?
Oh, okay. You did find the institutional. Okay, so it is lower float. Let me mark this one up real quick. Oh, this looks like so. WE is a recent reverse split based off here. Looks like on September 5th. And usually after reverse split, you'll have pop, then they kind of just sewer on off. So let's see, where do we go? Kind of in this area. 50's down here at like 342. Weekly's way higher. So we had something, I don't know if it's earnings or, oh, this will tell me if it was. Earnings on 11/9. Oh, so I don't even know what we was. Did they might have had news, but I don't know if I play after hours and Friday. But anyways, looks like Allie did. He got in at $1 and rotated 136. So dang, he caught literally whatever happened at, this time. He caught $1 break, which the stock moved up from 84 cents. So I guess your risk isn't too much there, but you played $1. He rotated at 136, which was like right here. Probably he's seen it putting a couple highs and coming back down because I don't really see any other, we just charted this out. There was nothing else that I seen. And so he's probably seen it pulling back a little bit and got out probably in this area. Stock pulled back, held, set up in a little bit of bull flag, held 10 EMA. I would have been looking for the rebreak of here at 138 pretty much. Came back up, rejected, came back up. This would have been the break. And then it ran to almost 100% here at 222. So this would have been my next bigger target if I played this break here, right?
Obviously, do you want the news on that,
Alan? I guess, yeah. It popped up.
It's a proposal by Cole Capital Fund seeks to acquire 51% of all minority ownership shares of WeWork Inc. for $9 per share in cash.
Okay. So it's just a proposal. Anybody can make a proposal. Anybody can offer anything. I can, send Amazon a letter asking them if they'll sell it to me for $1, So anybody can propose anything. I just don't, until it's like locked in. We see how many of these things don't work out, but usually proposals do pop up and then they usually tend to fail. I shouldn't say fail, but pull back down. So anyways, offered a good trade, got there, 214 didn't exactly hit. I would have been selling a little bit in, obviously it's above $2 natural. I wouldn't have been waiting for 214, but I would have been like, or sorry, not 214, but 222. Once it put in this double top, I probably would have been like, well, we didn't quite get it. Let me just sell some partial. And then I would have just been waiting for a 10 EMA. 10 EMA it held, at that time, it's also extended. So I would have been knowing, hey, it's probably a good place to take some off. Extended, we pulled back. We try to reverse, try to do another bull flag. We failed to do that. So what is that going to do? Now we got a lower high and it's going to kind of form like this downtrend here. At the same time, I'm just watching to see the 10 EMA. I probably would have gotten out here, right? This might have probably faked me out. If not, I definitely would have gotten out on these next candles and I wouldn't have been getting back in because my next resistance break would have been here, 202. And I don't know. I mean, that's not bad. That's about 20 cents. But once again, look at this circle and look at this circle. If you're going to play it, that means you're not making that much as what's over here, how much room we just got here. So if you're going to play it, you have to have very tight stop loss rules. You can't be loose when you're going to be trying to go for, a smaller piece of the pie, right? This is the big piece of the pie. You got to flip it, right? Imagine if you can't have a big stop loss on this because look at how much room it has to fall, right? But if you buy here, like especially at the start of it, your stop loss is going to be smaller, right? Because there's not much room for it to drop. So just make sure you're grading your plays. Don't put yourself at risk with a loosey goose, stop loss. You're going to get wrecked because the thing's going to just keep going down and down and down and down, pretty much like what we did. So it looks like Ali rotated 130. He's not in the chair. So I don't know if he's still in, but he said he rotated 136. So I'm assuming he popped at 1, sold some, came back down, rotated back up through here. I don't know if he sold, but he should have sold some here, and I don't know if he's holding any anymore. Will this be a runner Monday? Based on news, probably not. Probably not something I'd wake up for. It's just a proposal. But it is something I'd probably keep on the radar and just see, hey, what's we doing at 7 o'clock? Because there might be more traders. Why? Because they did this proposal here, which is late Friday, which who's sticking around this late Friday usually to trade unless you're Allie, right? Let's just be honest. So now more eyes are going to see it over the weekend, and that means maybe there might be a potential on Monday, but I doubt it. And if I can remember, we is a pretty large float. So, I mean, I know they had that split, but I think they're pretty big. So I hope that answers some of your questions. What is my outlook for next week? Well, we're past the Fed stuff. We got most of the big earnings, right? The big earnings that I follow are pretty much all the way. I know Tesla's done. I know Apple's done. I know, don't we got Amazon?
No, they're
Amazon
done.
happened. They're done. So I know the banks are done. I think there might be like Nvidia left. I know AMD is done. So there's a couple, still got to leak through. But for the most part, earnings is going to be coming to an end probably in the next 7 to 10, 7 to say 14 business days. So you got maybe a week to 2 weeks left of that. But you should start actively seeing more press releases, more activity, and things to really be jumping up. So, and we're going into the last quarter and the last part of, or we're not going into, we are in the last quarter and we're going to be wrapping up this year. So, so this is usually when things are exciting. So I'm going to probably, based on this week, say, hey, last week was a dud. I'm looking for things to be more active, and I'm going to really just focus on what comes out fresh at 7 a.m. And I'm going to look for the cycle to change, the slowness to end, and hopefully things ramp up. That's where my mindset's going. So if you got any questions that I did not cover, I apologize, and send me a DM and I'll get to it. Other than that, I'd say get your butt up early, be here, ready to go by 7 o'clock. I'll be here ready to go. And let's reset it all and get ready for Money Monday. I'm excited. So I look forward to it. I appreciate everybody that joined, and I'll see you at 7 o'clock.
See you in the morning, man.
Bye.